Hello, welcome back to the Non-Essential Workers Podcast. My name's Alex.
I'm Aiden.
And I'm Jason.
And we are here to present to you even more of the zany left-wing ramblings of our podcast, which covers a wide range of topics. You'll quickly figure it out. But what we've been doing to begin with in pretty much every case is to cover some of the headlines from the news and just interpolate from them whatever we think. And we've got some real bangers this time. So I will kick us off with some education and some schooling articles, because there's been quite a few interesting ones.
Mm.
The first one I noticed, which at least struck me for nothing else because it seemed fun, the new chief chaplain at Harvard, ? An atheist. This is from New York Times. Yeah, this is from the New York Times. That's a thing, apparently.
How does that work?
It's a great question.
It's from the New York Times, so it's probably not like a weird piece like we've seen where it's like he is a Christian, but he's like a new progressive Christian, and that's not real Christianity. It's probably not that kind of take, especially since they literally say an atheist.
Yeah, it's not really ambiguous. It's not like a spiritualist or something, you know.
Right. Well, there are a lot of things about religion that confuse me, about how you kind of parse them together and make them fit into the real world. So I guess impressive that they've managed to fit a new piece into their cosmology, not believing in any of the cosmology.
No, see, I'm gonna call bullshit on this. I wanted to verify. I went to Google. I Googled chaplain. The definition of a chaplain is a member of the clergy attached to a private chapel institution, ship, branch, or arm. Like, you can't be a member of the clergy if you don't believe in the gospel.
Well,
I mean, I guess you could be one of those like not out preachers who are secretly atheist, but they just said he's openly atheist.
Maybe they just really believe in the work of the church, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's like this whole like America needs spiritual guidance, even if it's all fake. I don't know. This is the New York Times trying to be smarmy and cool, like reverse Uno card. Don't you see? Like even the chaplains are atheists. Like, I don't buy it.
When I was at Wesleyan, we actually had like a humanist chaplain.
Yeah, but that is on purpose.
Yeah.
I want like a Satanist chaplain, but like you can't.
Well, that's my question. Like, is this a guy who was supposed to be a chaplain of a different religion and then became an atheist and they're like, it's fine, you can stay? Or is he like, oh, I'm the atheist chaplain, I represent House Atheist?
That's not a thing.
20 points to House Atheist. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, is it an atheist chaplain as its own idea, do you think?
No, that would be a secular humanist. Like, there's no atheist isn't a religious group.
Right. Though it could just be the New York Times being smarmy about.
Yeah, once again, they could be fudging definitions.
Right.
They could be like, "Oh, we shit talked the Pope once. He's an atheist." Like,
but let's even say he's a secular humanist chaplain. They would put that in charge of like over the Christian and Jewish and Muslim and all the other chaplains.
Yeah, colleges love pretending they're progressive. What better way than to give a symbolic position to someone who's different?
Mm.
It's very college, and this totally feeds into the right wing shit, which is like fucking America.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now the chaplains are atheists.
It's an Alex Jones headline, yeah.
Yeah, colleges will turn your kids gay and your chaplain's atheist.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. Fuck you, Harvard. You're already a shit institution. Now you're just worse.
I wish that real life was like Alex Jones headlines. It'd be Alex, so much better.
Did Michael Sandel teach at Harvard or Yale? Which was it? I can't remember. He's a Harvard guy?
I think he's Yale.
I thought he was Harvard. Whatever.
I'll look him up. It might be Harvard.
Harvard and Yale aren't what everyone cracks them up to be. One, college is bullshit. Two, college is too expensive because it all just pays the managerial class. That's where all like the 10 times price increase has gone. Three,
no, you're right. It's Harvard. Yeah, it's Harvard.
Harvard and Yale are especially bullshit. The kids that go to Harvard and Yale aren't that smart. They've figured out a way to game the SAT system. It really just means their parents have money and they spend it on private tutors who can guarantee get their kids' scores really high. And not every kid that goes to Harvard and Yale have like max SAT scores. Fourth thing, another thing. They don't even count SAT scores that much anymore because they've totally moved towards other metrics to study. 5, they're all just rich kids. They're stupid. They all suffer from affluenza. So my point, I brought up Professor Sandel because he's actually a pretty interesting philosophy professor, and they offer some of his courses on the internet for free because it's like an intro to philosophy. These kids are fucking idiots because you don't just get his lessons. You get to see his lessons and the class in there responding. The kids are all dumbasses. So Harvard sucks, Yale sucks, all the Ivy League sucks. They're just a money extortion racket. They're all just real estate companies trying to steal property from the towns they're in. And don't go to them. This is coming from 2 people who went to, or 3 people that went to top tier universities. So take that for what it's worth.
Unknowing is half the battle. We're just going to do PSA.
Put them in their place.
We lived through elite education, so you don't have to.
Yeah, we got that benefit, so you wouldn't be able to. But, speaking of bizarre things that schools are trying to tackle in a vaguely progressive but probably not really way, New York's private schools tackle white privilege. It has not been easy.
Oh no.
Oh my
no.
god. I
love private schools. It's so
So
hard.
now all the white kids come to school and get whipped.
Oh, and guess what? That's also New York Times. This is also New York Times. It had to be.
Oh,
yeah.
I love these. These have all stolen from BuzzFeed. Like the second sentence has to be like, "You won't believe it has not been." Like, how about just tell us what actually happened?
Yeah.
Just tell us like there was a 70% decrease in people feeling privilege. Like just, but no, it hasn't been easy, folks.
New York's private schools tackle white privilege with this one neat trick invented by a suburban mom. Doctors hate it. Like,
right? It's just like, oh god, I can't even imagine how.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe by like eliminating some kind of like standardized testing or something that they had, like entrance testing, because like you were talking about, lowering barrier to entry that prohibitively prevents people who don't have the time and the money to get, advanced tutoring on the side, is like a very easy way to keep out a certain amount.
Yeah, here's how you do it: get rid of your tuition.
People. Yeah, that too, but that's not what they did, I'm sure. Not blanket, anyways.
See, to me, this reads as
institution
whose entire purpose is to enable white privilege and segregation in an era when they can't officially be segregated. Tackle white privilege. It's like that's their job.
Yeah, that's important to mention. That's important to mention for people who don't understand the history of private schools. It used to be, in like way long ago, public schools were just for the rich white kids. That's what it meant to be a member of the public, was to be a property-owning white family. And as we have expanded the definitions of what constitutes a human and a citizen and a member of the public schools suddenly became for everyone. Boo, boring. We have to deal with people who aren't white. And that's the advent of private schools. So as Alex mentioned, private schools exist to continue segregation that was made illegal, but not totally conceptually gotten rid of. So private schools have exploded since the 50s and 60s. That's where all these charter schools come from. That's all their founding is like these scumbags from that era and since. And they exist to perpetuate the benefit to white people that they were previously providing. That's why public schools are underfunded and private schools get tons of funding now, especially more and more funding from the government, which is supposedly illegal. So Alex is right that this...
Right, and that's why school vouchers is such a right-wing thing.
Right. This entire article premise is impossible. It's a total oxymoron. They can't tackle white privilege. That's why they exist. They exist to help white people get ahead, which is what the whole point of early schooling was in the first place. There's a reason fucking pre-K is mostly white wine moms sending their kids there. Because pre-K gives you an advantage. If you're white and you have money, you send your kids there, your little kid there, to get an advantage on their peers. So I guess, I don't know, I can't even imagine what like superficial methods they've been doing. Like where they just teach slavery all day, every day in like every class. Like here's the history version of slavery. Here's your global history version of slavery. Here's your English version of slavery. Like, you just browbeating.
No, my guess is that they invited the children of the cast of like crazy rich Asians to say that they got more minorities. Like they found a handful of people who are super rich still and super elite, but somehow like
they're just spreading the privilege around.
Right. Like, well, so like when I went to undergrad, there was a huge number of extremely wealthy minorities who were brought in to kind of represent the minority quotient, but without really changing anything.
Well, yeah, because you don't really get financial aid or.
Yeah, it didn't really change anything about the class advantage that you needed to have to get into an elite university like that.
It was
But
just
it made it
different.
right. It made it seem like they were reaching out to the less advantaged minority communities, but really they were just taking the top 4% of each of these minority communities in terms of wealth and giving them.
Yeah,
a
the
shot.
irony is that actually makes the schools more privileged because they're
Correct.
actually more selective with the international students who they pick.
Absolutely.
Those are actually the more privileged than the Americans.
Because they don't get financial aid, so they all had to be rich.
God. Right. Those are all like the fucking Dubai princes who get to go to top tier universities. They're more privileged than even most 1% Americans could imagine. God damn.
The average white student at Wesleyan had a lower family income than the average minority student, to tell you a sense of who they were inviting.
Yeah. And that was 15 years ago?
Yeah.
Ish? Yeah.
It's definitely only gotten more that way, yeah.
And let's we've been talking mainly about the first sentence only. I have to imagine that it has not been the easy part. It's almost certainly wealthy parents becoming very angry about any attempts to equalize things in any way, or if we're to assume that they're going the other route, and it's like some kind of attempt to not change the demographics, but maybe like drip feed some kind of critical race theory, but not really critical race theory because that's a hot button word now, into courses, then it's like 1,000 school board shouting matches. But
well, I mean, these private schools don't have to deal with the same school boards that public schools do, because the public schools are actually accountable to the public, whereas the private schools are not. They just run like kangaroo courts in private where they can do all sorts of crazy shit. But I don't know. There's something about the to me, as someone who has taught kids, the way you tackle white privilege is by teaching them that it exists and how and why, and just teaching people accurately. Just give people what history actually is. Give people reality. Then like, oh, now I understand why I benefit from the system. Oh, I understand how gerrymandering works because I actually taught it. So maybe just teaching it is enough, and maybe that's what they're freaking out about it not being easy. But who knows?
Who knows?
I can't know if I can't read it. I won't read it.
See, my read on this was actually even more cynical, which I basically read this entire thing as New York's private schools claim they are tackling white privilege, and the second part of the statement is, but they really didn't. Like I basically read it as them basically saying they tried, it didn't work out. They gave it their best shot.
That's just as likely. Yeah.
Just kidding.
JK, whatever.
It's the thought that counts.
Right, exactly. That's the vibe I got from it. But let's talk about the other end of the economic spectrum. We've been dealing with some extremely elite institutions. Let's take a trip over to Michigan and sort of starting our economy section with our one more school article. Michigan schools desperate for bus drivers, they don't care what we offer. They don't want the jobs. This is from the Detroit Free Press. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think they do care what they offer.
I'm just
going to call that a lie.
Yeah. Press X to doubt.
I mean, if you offered $1 million a year, I think you'd have a lot of bus drivers.
Right.
If you offered free room and board, if you offered that their kids could go to the school as well, I think they would want the jobs. This sounds to me like a crock of bullshit. Written by some giant, probably teachers, bureaucrats, union boss, whose job it is to fuck over laborers. Oh, God.
No,
why don't they just give a giant contract to Uber?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's solve it.
Let's just privatize this fully. Give it over to big corporations. Yeah.
Where's Elon when we need him? Where's the fully autonomous Teslas driving your kids to school and exploding in mayhem?
Your kids will roll down a claustrophobic underground tunnel to school.
Boring tunnels to every school, and then Michigan just becomes an underground young adult novel. Oh man, that's great.
What were you gonna say, Ed?
Just collapses the entire state. I was just going to say, I agree with Jason that this has to just be we offered them from $10 to $12 an hour and a free pack of Band-Aids for healthcare. why won't they come work for us? Whereas, probably in the same town, like a bunch of small businesses have become desperate enough to offer a measly $15 or $16 an hour and have like full staffing and hundreds of job applications thrown at them every day. But the Detroit Free Press, as visionary as they are, has chosen to maintain their myopic view and focus on what is most certainly ungrateful laborers who are just too happy to soak in unemployment benefits, which are, of course, being cut off now. So, maybe they will see bus drivers coming back so desperate to work for starvation wages and risk COVID in small contained spaces day after day for minimum wage.
But they offered them a pack of menthols and a tin of hair cream. They wouldn't take,
It worked in the past.
I mean,
Yeah.
These are all the same. No, once again, we don't know if the Detroit Free Press advocates this position. I mean, I imagine they wouldn't. They're probably just quoting some monster superintendent. But I mean, these are all the old school right wing expressions and catchphrases and framings of, oh, it's the workers' fault. Oh, it's not our fault. Oh, feel bad for us. Business, the business behind the Michigan school system. No, we don't feel bad for you. No, we don't like you. No, we don't like your kids. Deal with it. The laborers do the work. The kids don't do the work. The kids sit on a bus and give everyone COVID. The people who do the bus driving inhale the fumes, inhale the particulates, drive tons of routes, are up at crazy hours, have to deal with driving through near pedestrians all day, dealing with insane drivers trying to cut them off. Driving a bus is not an easy job. It's way harder than a fucking Uber or a taxi. It's a giant fucking bus. It's a death machine filled with children. So it's already a difficult job. And I was under the impression that people who do jobs like this actually get decent pay. Because this is a high risk, low reward, dangerous. You need a lot of certification to be able to drive a bus. It's not easy. And so this idea that we can just lump them in we pay minimum wages. It's a no-skill job. They're treating this like it's McDonald's. And even that requires more skill than people say. So, I don't know. This is just all accepting all the right-wing framing as default true, not giving any voice to the opposition, at least in the title. Maybe it's discussed in the article. Who knows? But the framing of the article is, fuck these people. You should not feel bad for these laborers. They're all sorry, yellow-bellied, sitting on their ass, collecting unemployment. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's the pandemic put everything in perspective for people, that everything fucking sucks. And that for actually going to go back to quote-unquote normal, it's going to require some serious work by the employers. I've spoken.
I would like to point out that for someone who's only been a bus driver for a year or less, the average salary in the United States is $16 an hour. And they have very few benefits because they're almost all part-time employees. So they're basically saying this precarious job with extremely low base pay, with very few benefits, that's extremely stressful and could at any point get you in enormous trouble because you're basically taking care of dozens of children at once at almost all times.
You're a guardian and caretaker for children.
They're basically saying, we offered them $18 an hour instead of $16 an hour. What's wrong with them? Instead of saying, well, this is just a really fucking bad job. And you have to offer more because it's a shitty job. And they don't really want to offer more than a trivial increase because they don't feel that these people are worth anything. They feel that they're easily replaceable. But what they're,
I mean, audience, you remember you're going to school. You remember your bus drivers. Those were not a happy crew. Those people needed help, and you knew it. You knew it even as a kid, that your bus driver was going through some shit.
And unfortunately, it's very disproportionately people who have physical disabilities, people who are elderly, people who have something else going on in their life that needs, if not just living wage, but extra help to compensate for. There's an enormous number of elderly or disabled bus drivers. And basically, the fact that they're treated as essentially disposable, they treat it like it's unskilled labor when, despite, as you pointed out, they actually need to be pretty damn competent considering what they're in charge of. This is exactly the way in which they are trying to frame it as the fault of a labor population, like a labor pool, that they don't want to take a fucking terrible job. It's as if it's an ethical failing that they don't want to do this awful job for questionable pay, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and as Jason touched on, the whatever biases that the Detroit Free Press may or may not have, the headline is entirely irresponsible to even if it isn't quotations or not, to just put this out there and not offer any opposing perspective, like not have it be, they don't want the jobs. Bus drivers say,
Right. They don't say, contentious debate by bus drivers union
yeah,
with the school system. They
there's
just
no
say, do your
pushback.
job, pussy.
Yep. Because the framing is always supporting the person in power and the person with capital. It's almost never actually about the vast majority of people who suffer at the hands of that. And that's pretty consistent across media, and I hope you picked that up by now, listener. Speaking of which, let's talk about an article which definitely cares about suffering people. From CNET, millions will lose federal unemployment benefits by Labor Day. Everything to know.
Your guide to understanding how people are fucked. And isn't it ironic that they lose it on Labor Day?
Yeah, it's on Labor Day, and it's like an explainer article.
That's some good squishy.
Why your dystopian government is collapsing under its own weight. 5 cool tips. I don't know, man. This one depressed.
It's chewing and swallowing it still right now. Yeah, I mean, first of all, yes, it was such a darkly horrifying yet somewhat funny coincidence to have this land on Labor Day, a day which most Americans will tell you is just a day off, and probably could
it's
not.
not even a day off for most people at this point. Most people are like, I could take 1.5 times pay. I'll work today.
Yeah. It really, like it. If it really just reads like a guide to surviving the apocalypse. Yeah. It's like, all right.
I also hate the framing of these explainer articles. They're like, hey, reader, we're doing you a service. Here's everything you need to know. Here's the 10, as Alex said, like tips and tricks. Here's a little tidbit to know how to exploit the system. Like, you ought to be telling us how to do this. This isn't some fucking service. I just like these patterns have become so baked in now because we've been reading articles for years and years. We've seen the media landscape change in real time. Just it has not been easy, or the everything you need to know. Like, these are just such weird little hooks that try and get you into reading their tripe. Very upsetting.
The Reapers will be exterminating all of mankind tomorrow. Here's what to expect. It's just it doesn't
Here's
matter.
your guide to the apocalypse.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how bleak and insane and dystopian the thing that's happening. It'll be treated by media as not only acceptable but inevitable and normal.
Yeah, it's like when we read the article about places to move when the apocalypse happens.
Right. And instead of saying like this is a horrific atrocity that's being tolerated by a bipartisan consensus that serves capital, and it's even more ironic that it's happening on Labor Day, it's just like, hey, time to suffer. Do the best you can. Not my problem.
Yeah. I think in the New York Times, I saw something about Social Security ending a year early. And it was the exact same thing. It's just phrased as like a fact. It's like, this is just something a natural event that has occurred, that will occur. No one can explain why, but be ready for it. It's coming. Can't change it.
Nothing can be done. Power cannot be challenged. It is what it is. That's what they want you to believe.
Well,
next one.
The good news is we're not the only country that struggles with managing basic progression of time and the failure of systems.
Yes.
From where's this one from? New York Daily News, ironically, even though it's not about America. When Queen Elizabeth dies, Britain has a plan.
Oh, I think I did see this. Yeah. Man, that's dumb. Just like a MI6, like, so we get James Bond, and we get what's his face from the Spectre. What is the plan? The plan is just the next bitch is in charge. Like,
pretty
what a
much.
surprise!
It's almost like they've been a monarchy for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Monarchy gonna monarch.
Are there hordes of people fretting about whether the country's going to fall apart once the queen passes away?
Oh, they better be.
You know that Queen Elizabeth is mortal?
Yeah, and very, very, very old.
Yeah.
I also like that this basically follows the framework of the previous headline. It's like everything to know for when the queen dies.
At least this is lower stakes.
Except, of course, yeah, this will have no consequences on like unemployment benefits being cut off.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that the plan extends to the U.S. because I don't know how I'm going to cope when another staid and elegant representation of the beautiful empire of Britain passes away.
Yeah, this is a thing I've always wanted to talk about. I have never understood the American fascination with the British royal family. I don't understand why any of us should care about Meghan Markle or Prince Harry or the other fucker or the other late. I can't remember that. Like, or their kids. I don't know why any of us should care. Like, this is not some holdover from when we were colonies. Most people in this country are not fucking British or Belgium in their descent. Like, no one should care. I just don't understand. Like, they're not even celebrities for being in good movies or music. They're just celebrities for being rich and having property, which is like an old school of being a celebrity. So I can't understand why anyone cares, and I can't even understand why anyone in England cares what happens when she dies. Like, there'll be a big funeral.
Jace,
Okay?
you're telling me you don't have a personalized plan for what to do when Queen Elizabeth dies?
No,
How you're going to get through that day of suffering and mourning?
I suspect I will wake up and I will record a podcast of me shitting on stuff. Like, nothing. What else is new?
Well,
Yeah.
tell me you at least have a plan for how you're going to cope when Hillary Clinton dies.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a party.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, that was the setup. I'm glad you delivered.
Yeah, get the little hats out.
Yeah, I mean it's just like a romanticizing of like a holdover of this vision of like Victorian times of like the idea that everything was fancy, elegant parties and people spoke in funny, proper ways and manners once again were better back then, I guess. Yeah, it's and it all boils down to exactly what you said, like people fantasizing about having great wealth and spending that on lots of aesthetic things, whether it's dresses or galas or whatever. Yeah, people love escapism, even if it's as pathetic and sundry as real modern day royals, who at least, in the past you could point to them doing extraordinary things like wiping out entire populations or stealing the entirety of
Epic.
a nation's wealth. Yeah, epic Civ 6 success.
Well, lest ye think that the royals are the only dumb people in Britain, our next article, which is from TMZ.com, though it's still true despite that. Eric Clapton releases protest song on vaccines, quotes, "This has got to stop."
Yeah, I saw this too.
Yeah,
And just point of order, what has to stop is the vaccinating of people against COVID. That's what the song is.
Well, to be fair, I don't think he's really talking about that. I think he's talking about lockdowns and closing of businesses and forcing people to make medical decisions against their will. He's really protesting from a perspective of freedom. Obviously, he's insane and warped, but he's not saying like, no, I want people to die of COVID.
No, but he's saying he doesn't want them to be vaccinated. That's actually explicitly the case, even in the headline.
Well, because he probably believes like the devil.
Yeah, he thinks that it's like Andrew Wakefield shit. Like he thinks it's all just as bad for you, if not worse for you, than actually getting COVID.
yeah. I heard the song. I watched the video when it came out. Terrible song,
Cheered along.
and it has all the imagery you'd expect. People in locked in stocks. People being weighed on the scales of justice. The hypnosis, classic spiral. People staring at their phones. Yeah, old man yells at clouds, I guess. Except this old man is very famous and had a musical legacy that probably could have remained impressive to a lot of
He's
people.
always been a piece of shit.
I mean, he has always been a piece of shit. Let's not pretend. I mean, his music is very good, but this is also someone who's historically supported white supremacists in British Parliament for like 40 years. So,
But younger generations wouldn't have caught on to that.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
He kind of gave the game away to a new generation of fans.
Yeah. I love a number of his songs, actually. It's very frustrating when this kind of shit happens. But you know what? I'm not surprised.
What are some of his famous songs?
Well, one of the most famous is Layla, which then he also talks about he has a whole bunch of guitar riffs also, but I'm so fucking bad at remembering recall memory of proper names, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
It's a small point, but you're right, Alex. It's so much easier when the shitty artists also make shitty music.
Right?
Like just blanket shit. Like,
right.
Give me more Ted Nugents and stuff like that. Or just make bad music as well, or even better, Kid Rock.
Right. Someone who's just universally garbage, and
Those
I could
were
just be
literally
like, okay,
the two people. Outside, we talked about this
Yeah.
before. They're the two people.
just drag them into the garbage column and never think about them again. Like,
Yeah.
that makes it a lot easier. When someone's actually an extremely talented musician, you're like, okay, come on, man. Like, get your shit together. But they won't, and they never will. Of course they won't.
Yeah.
But the good news is we're not the only Americans who find a lot of things wrong.
Hang on,
with
before the next article,
country.
I still want to mention I feel bad for the world that these are the next wave of protest songs. Like, protest songs became popular and famous in the wake of Vietnam and like the civil rights movement. The idea that we're protesting public health is just like how far we've fallen.
It's really disgusting.
It's just
They're appropriating what was historically a largely left-wing resistance to power and using it for the
not even just left wing. Like, there were many
popular.
Yes, there are many like populist right wing people who also hate fucking.
And now it's let me use this platform I have because I'm rich and famous, and this idea of a protest song to basically reinforce psychotic anti-public health ideology. But as I was going to say before, the we're not the only Americans to take issue with the idiocies going on in Great Britain. Specifically, the UK and US are feuding over the Afghanistan withdrawal, with British ministers calling the president doolally and Biden ignoring Boris Johnson's calls.
Calling him what?
I don't know. It's some British shit. Doolally.
I don't think you're pronouncing that right now.
Probably not. But this is a Yahoo article, by the way. But the idea of Biden not taking Boris Johnson calls just makes me very happy.
No one should take his calls.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I saw something. I'm trying to remember if it was Boris Johnson. I think it might have been. Biden was quoted saying, like, there was someone in a foreign government, I think the UK, who criticized the withdrawal, and he responded with like, I won't forget this, or like, I won't let this go.
Never forget.
Yeah, like that he would hold this grudge for the rest of his life. That's very funny.
The rest of his short life.
So I just Googled it, and it turns out it is in fact doolally, and it basically just means feeble-minded.
Well, I mean, they're
not wrong.
They're on something.
They're not wrong, but still, good work, man. You're really gonna, get what you want out of
the
Biden.
kettle black. But...
Yeah, Boris Johnson is calling Biden.
Known public intellectual.
Yeah, you don't have your shit together, man. Boris Johnson, who like huffed COVID farts for as long as he could to make sure he got it. It's really incredible. I really like when other countries make Biden seem good by comparison. It's hard to do.
It's sad when our family is beefing. I thought we were such good allies with the UK.
Yeah, they are.
Now we're doing like Real Housewives shit with them.
They are our most favored nation, but I guess they're that doesn't guarantee having your calls picked up, which is just the pettiness, at least in the way that this headline is phrased, is enormously amusing, and I kind of makes me want to see a Biden Boris Johnson sitcom.
I want to see a celebrity boxing match between them.
They just replace the guys in grumpy old men. It just like screaming at each other and being assholes, and then like hug it out.
That'd be great.
Well, there's not a whole much to say about this one. I just think it's you love to see it.
Yeah,
when dumb assholes these countries shit at each other.
Dude, they beefed.
However, there is a little bit more in the way of Afghanistan and Middle East news, specifically from The Guardian. I don't know why they're talking about us and we're talking about them. That's just how it goes. I'm not Rambo. Republican unrepentant about attempt to enter Afghanistan.
Oh, is this that one dipshit who's like, I'm gonna be cool, I'm gonna go save my like some...
Literally, yes.
What's that guy's name? I can't remember.
He's like a mixed martial artist who wants to go beat up the Taliban. It's not even a joke.
Yeah, I saw.
Shouldn't he be saying he is Rambo then?
Right. He should have been like, I am Rambo. Give me dual wielded machine guns and I will
M60s.
plow through.
Yeah, I mean, this is surprising to me because, like, usually politicians don't take actual risks. They do symbolic gestures. But actually going to Afghanistan right now is no simple task. So, I mean, if you want to take your life in your own hands, like, be my guest, but this is not a simple, survivable PR campaign.
No, he's just an idiot.
Yeah, when they're with the embassy staff in Afghanistan, it's like, let me through, or I'll beat you up. I'll throw you in the bathroom toilet, give you a
But there's a
swirl.
non-zero chance he would generally get killed going there.
Yeah.
Trying to rescue.
Absolutely.
What does he mean by I'm not Rambo? I'm so confused by that. Is it because
I guess
like,
he's saying he drew first blood.
No, I think that he's saying
No.
this is his call to action to be like, we need to go back in there as an army. He's trying to say, like, I can't do it all myself. We need to go back in there. It's his, like, we back in line.
Why didn't the U.S. military countermand the orders of the chief executive and Congress and just go back in because I went? Why didn't they just follow me?
I mean, yeah, that Republicans like this assume the military will just do what Republicans want.
Holy shit!
So yeah,
I was going to
that
train
may
the
be what he
military how
generally
to
believe.
MMA them to death.
They already learn MMA and they're very bad at it.
I know it's funny.
See, the thing is though, he didn't end up going on his heroic rescue mission.
His hero's journey.
And yet, this is still the kind of thing that, as a Republican, you can ride to political success for like decades off of just this single.
That's what McCain's whole thing is.
Stupid stunt. Yeah.
I was a bitch pilot who got fucked. Like, okay, cool. Why do you have to run the world now?
The globalists won't let me go get killed in Afghanistan. I don't know what valor he thinks he was trying to steal here, but it's asinine one way or the other. He's lucky they fucking stopped him because this idiot would have gotten himself killed for sure, or at least captured and humiliated.
Yeah, doubtless.
Well, we have one other sort of Middle Eastern article to talk about. Fortunately, this one's from our much more sane allies, Israel. Israeli PM tells U.S. Jewish leaders to lower tensions with Palestinians. It's been a lot of back tension. There's a lot of muscle, give them a nice little rub down.
Body massage.
It's just tension.
What's the new
PM's
name? I can't remember. He's very boring.
Naftali Bennett.
Bennett, okay. Who are these U.S. Jewish leaders? That's what I want to know.
It's probably some, APAC or whatever.
Right, is this like the head of APAC? Is this like we've talked about before? Is this like Kissinger? Like, well, who's he talking to? Who does he think makes up American Jewry?
Kissinger would not approve of this message, so I'm assuming it's not him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's probably reported to, like, I don't know, Seth Rogen or something. I guess Seth Rogen.
No, Seth Rogen actually is pro-Palestinian.
Yeah, exactly.
I know he is.
He's reporting to Seth Rogen to tell him he's not a real Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was funny.
And also, I'll lower tensions.
You're not a real right-wing psychopath. All right, cool, thanks.
Nice to hear it. I just love that this article frames it as though the underlying and completely like irredentist conflict over who has human rights, citizenship, voting rights against police brutality, rights to not get put in an open air prison, as if that's tensions, as if that's like they're just angry, they're just so upset.
Yeah,
we need to calm it down.
It's not 2,000 years of murder and bloodshed.
It's like,
but it also implicitly buys into like the big great man of history idea. Like this one PM's gonna fucking solve it the way Jared Kushner was gonna solve it. No, he ain't. This is why people were very critical of the whole election in Israel anyway. Because like you replace Netanyahu, okay, then what? Nothing's gonna actually change. He just has like a better smile on his face instead of like a grinning murder boner for mowing the lawn. So no one believes you. No one cares. Nothing's gonna change unless he comes out and says, "I'm doing a two-state solution. Fuck off." No one's gonna like believe this. So it's just for his own.
Which, by the way, he's not. He's almost exactly as right wing as the last guy.
Right, just for his own like edification. No one believes this. There's not a human on Earth who believes that's true. So who's it for?
Probably his base to make him seem like more moderate or reasonable.
What base? He's in a parliamentary system. He doesn't have a voting block the way like American presidents running for office.
No, but he postured himself as the sort of more reasonable, more diplomatically savvy version of a Netanyahu.
But it's not going to matter because the policy outcomes aren't going to be different.
No, of course they're not going to be, because they all basically want the same thing at this point. But yeah, I would, for one, like to see how he intends to lower tensions. How, you know, what actual levers of power he would use, what actual concessions he would make to change a going on 75-year conflict between two peoples.
Only in its latest iteration is it 75. It's thousands of years.
Well, yeah, but not the Israeli-Palestinian thing has mostly been recent. There's not like a historical conflict between Jews and Muslims that is irredeemable. It's mostly been both of them versus Christians.
Sure, but land has been conquested for
right.
thousands.
That the idea that territory and the conflicts over it, which fundamentally have to do with forms of legal recognition, forms of respect of human rights, giving people an actual state, or at the very least citizenship within an egalitarian state. All of those things would be necessary to meaningfully change the situation. And it's like, we'll tell them to chill. We'll tell them it's going to be all right.
We'll cut off water for like 30 minutes less than we normally do.
Right.
The irony is, this is what everyone thought Biden would be like, but because Biden's actually under a lot of significant pressure, he's actually changing things and people are freaking their shit. Like, Biden was trying to come in and be like, I'm just going to talk nice and be a grandpa. And then actual things started getting threatened and you had to change them. Like, actually getting out of Afghanistan, actually fighting against the Texas abortion law. Like, Biden's actually been a surprise in the last couple months in terms of outperforming what he said he would do. Whereas everyone believes this will just be the same old, same old. So grandpa speak doesn't really help us.
Well, speaking of the inevitable right-wing drift of politics after a fraudulent effort to make it seem like that's not what it is, let's return to the U.S. from which one is this? Daily Mail UK again, because they like shitting on us.
Daily Mail's real bad.
Gay rights exhibit is removed from Missouri State Museum after 4 days, following complaints from state senator who claimed it was, quote, pushing an agenda.
Yeah, no shit it was.
We gotta stop the Neanderthal agenda. We gotta stop the Native American agenda.
Something political this way comes. Like,
4 days and 4 nights. The exhibit held fast.
But on the 5th day.
Who thought it was going to be more or less than 4 days? Like, because that seems about right for Missouri at this point.
Yeah, I'd say I would have given them maybe 3 days. I would have gone under on the bet.
5 is right out.
It's like a crazy.
Yeah, I would like to see. I think after the podcast, I'll look up just how replete with information this exhibit was, or if it was just like a stall in the corner of one room, and even that was too much for them. I shouldn't say them. Apparently, it's entirely the actions of a single senator. But I have to believe that he was speaking for more than just himself in this case. But yeah, it kind of makes me feel bad. Like even the fact that it's unexpected in some ways, like it just reminds me that to be part of the LGBTQ plus community is to constantly have your history, your identity politicized and just like thrown and smeared.
To exist is to have an agenda.
The news cycle, yeah, and yeah.
I wanted to mention this because I was watching some like sports video the other day, and the host was talking about COVID and like how it might mess with the NFL. And people in the comments are like, I really hate how this guy pushes his agenda.
Yeah.
I want people to get something straight. Everyone has an agenda. We have an agenda, and we wear it openly. We explain to you why our agenda is what it is. Everyone has an agenda. There's no such thing as not having an agenda, unless you're just an opinionless blob sitting on a couch. Everyone has beliefs. Everyone wants to convince other people that their beliefs are in fact true. That's what having an agenda is. So the Republicans have an agenda. Their agenda is being anti-gay. The gay people have an agenda called acknowledge we exist. The right, all the articles we read today, they all have agendas. Harvard has an agenda with trying to get this chaplain who's an atheist. The private schools have an agenda with dealing with this white privilege thing and how it messes up their existence. The fucking Michigan schools have an agenda of trying to fuck over their bus drivers. Everyone has an agenda. Shut the fuck up about people having agendas or not. Just acknowledge it.
How convenient it is that not having an agenda, according to the state senator, is the homophobic and discriminatory status quo.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas trying to fight that is an agenda. So things that exist are never treated as agendas, despite being incredibly political and usually right-wing. So all they try to do is make sure that whatever status quo benefits them is considered the neutral default position, no matter how psychotic it is, as if to say it is not political because it is there. Slavery wasn't political because it was just what we were doing. We were just up to it. It was happening, so it can't be political because it exists. That's the logic.
Because it was there first.
Right.
Because we got to it before we called it politics.
It's a completely incoherent position with no logic. It's just meant to serve themselves. And they kind of know that, but they don't care because they think you're stupid. They think you're stupid. They think you won't notice. And their base generally doesn't, so they're half right. But
yeah. All these terms have just been so weaponized and made to be so broad and meaningless, and yet just cleanly slide into the news cycle and through the eyes into the brain of whatever person is absorbing it, and just kind of comes to acknowledge that I associate pushing an agenda with being bad because those people do it, and that's bad. Whereas, as you say, Alex, things have always been good because I'm a conservative, and so let's conserve the status quo, which unfortunately, still to this day, beats down and denigrates many, many people.
Well, fortunately, the right wing has shown that they're capable of also fighting a good status quo, not just maintaining a bad one. Coming to us from Ars Tech. No, that's the other one. That's The Hill.
Oh.
No, that's a different one. Coming to us from The Hill, a venerable institution with terrible articles. Oregon governor sued by police and firefighters over vaccine mandate.
Yeah, I think I saw this. It might not have been for Oregon, or it might not have gotten to this.
Some other state doing the exact same.
Yeah. And I remember whatever article it was quoted as like in that force. I think it was Oregon. 57% aren't vaccinated in the police. Yeah. Good conserving. Yeah. It's just so laughable at this point.
Yeah.
Like we know that many members of the law enforcement community don't actually either effectively
We should
protect
definitely do the cop killer one next then.
protect the community, and that there are also plenty of people in law enforcement who maliciously abuse members of the community, especially people of color and people of lower income. But this is just like, it just is going back to the plague riders of Nurgle level of things. It's like, yeah.
But now it's the actual authority.
We're not going to just
counterculture people.
actively abuse the people that we're supposed to protect. We're also going to give them COVID. But then now I have to lump firefighters in there with them as well, who I don't generally have a problem with. Since
they're just as conservative.
Oh, I know. I grew up in a small town. I very well know that. It's just weird to like have to put them together when they don't quite have the same, they might have the same voting patterns, but they don't have the same malicious
Well, they don't have guns, at least.
attitude or, well, you just wait. It's coming, I'm sure.
I'm going to shoot this fire. There's a little delectable morsel I want to mention here with this story.
Please do.
What do firefighters and cops have that are very strong? Union representation.
Right.
It's almost like they have collective bargaining and labor rights and can sue a fucking governor. You know who can't do that? The people who drive the buses, the people who work at the restaurants, every other fucking laborer. These people only have the strength they have to fight against science because they have labor rights. So anyone who says, like, oh, you need to join a union, oh, you shouldn't have that, oh, it's usurping power, fuck off. We can even watch when people use labor rights for wrong, in this case. But labor rights let you fight the fight you want to fight.
Yeah, it turns out collective bargaining power can be used for whatever you want it to be because it's a form of power.
Exactly.
But if you want working people to have power, there's no clear evidence that it works than how strong police are.
It is muscle. It is strength. It lets you it lets you enforce your ideas. Even if in this case it's bad ideas. For most people, it'd be good ideas. So I don't want to hear from anyone ever again. Oh, unions don't work. Oh, unions are corrupt. Oh, unions are bad. Well, the fucking firefighters and policemen use it like crazy. So it clearly fucking works. And then secondly, I also want to mention that I don't know, it's really rich watching who are supposedly the enforcers of the status quo suing the executors of the status quo for defending them like too much. It's really funny. Watching the beast turn on itself and devour itself is very funny to watch in real time.
Yeah. Well, I want to briefly reference the article that was mentioned because I don't think we're going to do anything too deep on this. What was mentioned as to why this is especially absurd is that there's another article from local10.com, which is simply COVID-19 has become the #1 cop killer. So not only are they suing against the best interests of the public, which they could easily infect when they interact with them, they're fighting against protection against the thing that has killed more police than any other thing. They're fighting to die. Basically,
yeah. I was researching this because I was reading that article. It's really funny. Being a police officer is not even in the top 10 list of most dangerous jobs in America. They're actually all like farmer and laborer and like driller and like all the actual hard work jobs. So being a cop, 1, isn't even that dangerous. 2, everyone just assumes cops get shot everywhere. They think everywhere is gangland USA. Cops don't really get shot that often. The thing that's most likely to kill a cop today, especially in the Florida area, where the article was written out of, is them giving each other COVID and getting COVID from the public and then giving COVID to the public because that's where they got it. Cops are now killing each other. There's also like organizations that exist to track how many cops get killed, and all their like data start spitting sparks because like they're not getting killed by cholos in the hood. No, They're killing each other from COVID. They're all on ventilators.
Yeah.
Very delicious, very delectable.
Yeah, it's real. I mean, again, human suffering is human suffering, but at least in this case, I feel okay about it.
Dish out the human suffering.
Yeah, exactly. It's really hard to feel sympathy for people who are aggressively seeking their own demise in a brief escape from their brutalizing of other people. Yeah. Well, I'm going to leave us out with a few articles that are at least kind of fun. This one has a sort of smarm.
Oh, I'm having fun.
But I kind of enjoyed this one. I'm not usually one for smarm, but this one felt pretty good. This is the Ars Technica article. DeSantis still fights masks, despite COVID surge, court loss, expert advice, etc.
Etc. Too many to list.
There's just too much to list on how stupid he is.
DeSantis does not have enough arms to hold all these L's. Yeah.
Yeah. Very fun headline. Stupid policy, but it was fun. I don't know how much more else there is to say about the asinine right-wing like obsession with destroying themselves, their constituents, and the country, but it's on full display. I'll say that much.
Well, here's what's happened. The intelligent Republican intelligentsia are all gone. They've all died and left the party. So now the Republican Party is being run by like pigmen, and they don't understand that their demographics are being killed by their own policies.
Right.
So, you don't have like these, I'm a 20-term senator and I know it's in the best interest of the Republican Party and we need to like slowly appeal to Hispanic people. No, they've just gone full insane. They don't realize that all the policies they've tried to enact over the last 4 to 5 years, all they do is kill their constituents. More wars kills their constituents. Fuck COVID kills their constituents. All this shit is disintegrating the Republican Party base. So it's suicide. It's party suicide. It's demographic suicide. You could even probably call it genocide because of the ethnic makeup and the kind of various factors that make up the Republican base. But it's self-genocide. It's really,
it's
really
a self.
something to behold.
It's a self-own ethnic cleansing. It's a really incredible set of policies to be pursuing. But it seems like nothing was going to change their mind. Like they don't seem to care about electoral victory at this point. They're just
because Alex, as we read last time, life is eternal.
Right.
They're just going to go chill in heaven with God and COVID.
I mean, the fact that like 1 in 5 new COVID cases is in Florida seems to have no impact on DeSantis's logic.
No, he really wants to be president. He is yucking it up with power brokers. He's a real piece of shit.
Yeah. He's almost dumb enough to be president.
Yeah, he's getting there.
I think I'll take us out with a couple articles that illustrate that as humanity trends towards that inevitable collapse of society, the animals are stepping up to the plate. These are a couple articles I'll read in succession that we could discuss them together. Bali monkeys raid homes for food after lack of tourists and their treats. And this from The Hill. And 2 from USA Today, a great escape. Wild boars team up to free a pair of fellow pigs caught in a trap.
So there is still hope in the world.
I mean, we are very quickly approaching Planet of the Apes. The animals will take over, and they will not give it back. When we get flooded because of global warming, and the dolphins and the octopus take over, like they ain't giving it back. It's theirs. And then the boars and the pigs are gonna take the grasslands and the heartland. We will just be slowly pushed to sea, and the world will go back to equilibrium, and all things will be how they should be.
As DeSantis leads the new pigmen faction of the Republicans, the actual boars are becoming boar men to supplant them.
Yeah, I mean, this is just starting to sound like a fantasy novel come to life. But that's reality, folks.
I, for one, welcome our new boar overlords.
Exactly. Can't write this shit. I'm more of a dolphin and octopus guy. I'll get the cyberware gills that they'll give us.
I will stand my ground against any monkeys that try to raid my home.
You'll get your guns ready to defend your house.
Yeah.
Trying to get apples.
This is what the founding fathers intended. I'm going to die buried beneath monkeys. But I'm going to take some of them with me.
We all are on a different path of life. That's the way it's going to be.
Well, I think that'll do it for our headline section. Lots of them and real stupid, but we're through it, and now we can breathe a sigh of relief as we dig a little deeper into stupid things. Aiden, why don't you tell us a couple articles that we haven't covered yet in a little more depth?
Well, which is how ready for stupidity are you guys?
I'm ready for an entire age of stupidity.
Okay. Well, then I have the perfect article for you. Yeah. So this one is a lovely, lovely opinion piece from the Wall Street Journal that Alex happened upon and was kind or cruel enough to share with us. It is, as Jason hinted at, called simply, "You Are Living in the Golden Age of Stupidity." It is written by a fellow named Lance Morrow, and it is indeed it is an op-ed.
Case in point about how stupid society.
Exactly makes its case wonderfully, but not probably in the way that
not what he intended.
The author intended, as it is an incredibly idiotic piece. To briefly summarize, the author essentially. It's kind of hard to summarize because it's so rambling. It's at first just like it's obviously just an exercise in creative writing for this fellow to try to hear his own voice as much as possible.
Here's his best analogy: that
correct.
Trump was the road runner and Democrats were Wile E. Coyote. Trump dumb, but Democrat dumb too. Isn't it dumb how everything's dumb? I'm smart because I'm not dumb. I strongly recommend you all read it because it is not that far off in terms of the level of understanding.
Watching a neoconservative try to become a radical centrist and pose in that was possibly the most sickening combination of idiocies I've read in one article. Which is why you now have to talk about it.
You know how King Lear is the same as World War One? You guys know that? Did you know that?
Yeah, he's acting like he's giving us the New Testament. It's like, yeah, we get it. We get it. The whole thing's dumb. You're part of it. You don't get to pretend you're not part of it.
Yeah.
You don't get to pretend you're like, oh no, I'm above this. No, you're not. You're writing a fucking Wall Street Journal op-ed. You're part of the dumb. Welcome.
He tries to draw us a genius connective tissue as binding together the counterculture of the 60s with people's current obsession with social media as being like a clear road that we have walked down and has significantly contributed to our current golden age of stupidity, which I would agree social media has. I wouldn't say that like protesting the Vietnam
I wouldn't say it
War
started in the 60s.
Wait, you don't see the clear connective tissue of things he didn't like?
Thinks he was alive to be too old for at the time, even.
Right, yeah.
I do like that. He just outright calls the murders of the Kennedys stupid.
It's
That was
dumb.
so fucking dumb.
This is what like a kid says when they're failing at a video game.
Bro,
Yeah.
This game's dumb anyway.
bro, why would you even shoot the Kennedys like that?
So stupid from a grassy knoll. Dumbest place you could shoot someone from.
It's fucking lame. It's the most frat boy of articles written by someone who thinks he has 300 IQ. But yeah, it's really incredible because he basically asserts that Trumpism and birtherism and COVID denial and anti-vaccine shit, all the like really psychotic kind of going off even from politics into just psychosis behavior. Well, that's just like, Democrats do it too. It's all basically the same.
They're all
Whatever.
products of the same culture.
It's all dumb. It's all dumb stuff. And it's like the Wall Street Journal is owned by the parent company of Fox. Fox was the main place pushing anti-vaccine rhetoric for the last year and a half, causing this to happen. He is writing an article about how stupid people are for listening to his company.
Yeah, he's part of the smart dumb people.
It's the same company. It's the same people. He's writing an article in the Wall Street Journal about how stupid people are who listen to Fox. I almost could not believe that this was if this was published in the Atlantic or something, I'd be like, all right.
Yeah, but Alex, New York Times is dumb, and they're read by Democrats.
Yeah,
Can't explain that.
It's so fucking incredible.
Checkmate, atheist chaplain.
It's like Bill O'Reilly shows up and he's like, hey, what can you do? These people are just stupid. Why would they listen to us? That's literally what this is. And this old fucking grumpus piece of shit has the audacity to like mock and ridicule the people who are like choking out their last breaths because they trusted his parent company. I don't know.
What else does it get into?
Well, let's see. Well, he says, it of course comes to the eventual point that you might expect of someone of this kind of background and obvious political philosophy, which is about respect and manners. Let me just briefly read where he first begins to touch on that subject, where he says, manners depend on reticence, even mystery. When those ingrained regulations, those protections of the individual mind are gone, then you may open the floodgates to, among many other things, pornography, which is a massively lucrative assault on individual dignity and collective decorum.
Does he mean conceptual pornography or like literal pornography?
I think he means, in this case, literal pornography.
What is he talking about?
I guess conservatives will be conservative. It's not. I can't imagine that he really cares about like sex workers in any way. So yeah, it's just that it's gross and stuff in the bedroom should stay in the bedroom and so and so. I mean,
what does pornography have to do with our dumb culture? We all have like porn brain. We're all stupid now. What are you talking about?
It's like so disgusting that we would.
This is your brain on porn as he smashes the egg into a frying pan.
That we would all have.
Come on, dude. You gotta try better than that.
Porn in our home, like we all do. And of course, later he touches on how
even Buckley would shake his head at this.
How like the profusion of gender identities is terrible. How we shouldn't talk about genitals and trans issues. And then also how we shouldn't extract sunbeams from cucumbers, whatever that means. I've never heard that. Sunbeams from cucumbers.
This guy's like having a stroke in real time.
I want to read just one paragraph.
Yeah, please
to
do.
give you a sense of not only how much of a piece of shit this guy is, but how much every single sentence has nothing to do with the previous sentence in any coherent way.
Yeah.
The death of manners and privacy, I argue, are profoundly political facts that, combined with other facts, lead, eventually, to an entire civilization of stupidity. It's a short ride from stupidity to madness. Soon people aren't quite people anymore. They are cartoons and categories and identities. The media grow feral. Genitals become weirdly public issues. The sexes subdivide into 100 genders. Ideologues extract sunbeams from cucumbers. They engage in what amounts to an Oedipal rebellion against reality itself.
What does that
They become
mean?
reality losers.
This reads like the deranged final speech of like the villain at the end of a film who's like laughing like you didn't win.
These were Nero's final words before he was assassinated by his wife.
Exactly. Like these are the psychotic last words of a man who's like delusions of grandeur are falling around him as he like bleeds out on the concrete and the heroes are watching it. And it's just, you know, sentences like the media grow feral, like I don't even know what that's like some Shakespearean insane.
We have
thing
to have a
say.
write-off between him and the Chicago guy.
Yeah, like it's just it's so pretentious and so asinine and completely unironically like stupid on a level that he can't really understand. He's just he's like free associating between things he doesn't like and like random stuff that bother him and like that he can't like shit correctly these days. Like I don't know.
Last time we did one of the articles, we actually went a little bit into the detail of who the guy who wrote it, because Aiden had like 3 articles at once. What's this guy's deal? Have we learned anything about this guy?
Yeah, I want you to guess this man's age.
80. 81.
62.
Prize goes to Aiden. He is 81.
Oh, god damn it.
Oh, he's really 81?
He will be 82 in
I thought he was
2
just a crank who's like, I'm too old for my age. Like, I'm too young.
He'll be 82 in 2 weeks. This is the oldest of men articles that can be written, which is like, I don't understand the world. Everything just seems stupid because I can't be fucked to learn how it works. And everything I ever hated is also bad, and the reason everything else I hate is bad.
New rule.
Fuck
You
off.
can't write an op-ed if you're over 80. Fuck off. Please die already.
Tremendously stupid.
They engage in what I can't. I'm still just rereading that last sentence that you read. An Oedipal rebellion against reality itself.
We want to fuck reality's mother,
Yeah.
which is our mother.
Everyone wants to kill reality.
These sentences don't even mean the one thing they say, let alone connect to any other coherent idea in the same paragraph.
Oh, also, people, don't bother tweeting this guy. He won't read it. He'll think it's like a newspaper. He won't understand.
He's in an Electra complex with his Twitter feed. Like,
He's immune from social
I don't
media
know.
hate. He can't check his email.
He's in a Trojan. He's in a Trojan war with computing. I don't know. This dude's so over the top, up his own ass and idiotic that it's almost perfect. Like I hope he writes a few more things before he turns, whatever age he dies.
Hundreds of dust.
Before he like disintegrates, like he's just been, turned extinct.
Palpatine?
Yeah, like by Thanos or whatever. Like he's just gonna turn into dust and drift into the wind. But these sentences kind of turn into dust and drift into the wind as you read them. So it kind of gets the idea across.
They'll be consistent to the day he turns into dust.
Yeah.
We just have to drive a stake through his heart to turn him into dust.
Mm-hmm.
So many vampires and ghouls write these articles. We really are like ghost hunters if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get Baggins in on it.
Yeah, if you really
Getting
think about it.
Baggins. Zach Baggins. And
No,
his little Bilbo, too.
No, it was free associated.
Me.
Can't wait to read your op-ed in WS.
Yeah, in 50 years.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, fuck this psycho shit. When I was back in my day, social media was just about sex.
Yeah, there's not enough pornography.
Yeah, part of the porn is too damn low party.
Yeah.
The decline of American civilization was the lack of pornography. Yeah. Yeah. There's not enough porn on the internet, and that's why Western civilization is
I
falling.
downloaded all of it. Now there's no more space on my phone.
Right, exactly.
And the
The
guy
new
at
library
Verizon
of
won't help me.
Now my phone is saying something about ransomware, and I don't know what to do.
Is this the Taliban?
Yeah.
The Taliban are back. They're ransoming my godson. I mean, these are the musings, essentially, of the guy who wrote the article.
They're real close. Well, that's all I have. I don't know if you guys have parting thoughts.
Man, some of the top 5 opinion pieces on the side of this article on Wall Street Journal are real promising in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things like our friends the Taliban, Kavanaugh to the liberal rescue, the real.
We've read all these.
We've read,
Basically.
yeah, basically. Oh man.
Nothing changes. Everything's always the same.
Yeah, time is a
We've
flat
read every
circle.
article. We've responded to every article. Life is futile.
But yeah, I think that'll do it for us this week. Be sure to tune in next time for somehow finding something stupider and feeling like we've really reached our golden age.
Yeah, remember, insanity is more.
Yeah, this is the first arc. Look, we're in
more
Berserk.
enjoyable when you share it with us.
See you next time.
Bye.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoy what we do here at the Non-Essential Workers Podcast and you want to support us, please check us out at patreon.com/non-essential workers podcast or by clicking the link below.
For $5, you get access to the Patreon feed and twice as many total episodes.
How many more?
I'll say it one more time for the back. Twice. Anyways, thanks and see you next time.